Hello, and welcome back to Agents Unleashed, the show that helps you to sort the signal from the noise in the fast-paced world of agentic AI. I'm your host, Thomas Maybrier, and I'm a producer at Valerie, one of the core contributors to Olas. Olas is the best way for anyone to own and monetize an AI agent. You can learn more about how to do that at olas.network. On this week's show, we're going to check out an open source path to training the AGI of the future from Prime Intellect, take a look at a new Ethereum proposal that's designed specifically for AI agents, and talk to one of the authors behind the proposal. This episode is sponsored by Sigil. Sigil is one of the top performing crypto hedge funds worldwide. It's been run by crypto natives since 2018. Learn more at www.sigilfund.com. Okay, so we'll begin with Prime Intellect. A quick note of disclosure here. Valerie, one of the core contributors to Olas, participated in the training of Intellect 1, which was an open source AI model created by Prime Intellect, but this next segment is not sponsored. So they recently released a new initiative called the Environments Hub, which is an open, community-driven source for reinforcement learning environments. Basically, they're creating a shared library where researchers, startups, and independent developers can contribute the contexts in which AI agents and AI models can learn and improve. For context, no pun intended, an RL environment is basically a world where an AI agent can live with the goal of learning new or improving existing skills. The environment tells the agent what it can see, what actions it can take, and then gives it some kind of feedback, whether that's a reward or a penalty based on what it does. This loop is where the learning happens. Simple examples would be things like Atari-style games like Pong or Snake, where the agent learns to play the game, or simple robotics simulators where the AI can control an arm to manipulate blocks. Recently, we've been seeing environments that are much more complex, modeling things like markets, the creation of dialogue, or even science. Prime Intellect built the hub because right now, as they see it, there's a growing market of startups who are providing closed proprietary environments for training, but only selling them to the biggest labs. This creates the same kind of lock-in that we can sometimes see in pre-training data, where open source models can fall behind if the best resources are gated. The Prime Intellect pitch is that if these environments stay closed, open source AI research is always going to be second class. However, if we can build a shared open library of environments, then open source has a real shot at staying competitive and maybe even setting the pace. The hub is their way of tipping the balance by giving anyone, not just a handful of well-funded private labs, access to the kind of test beds that you actually need to train advanced AI. The entire stack is open source, so it's a natural fit for a community-driven project like this one. I'd like to read you a quote. This is from Will Brown, who's a research lead at Prime Intellect. He wrote this on X. "We all have to get better at working together, at not reinventing the wheel, at assembling individual pieces into bigger puzzles. Let's take what we've collectively done so far, clean it up, make it work together, bring more people into the tent, and start playing more positive-sum games. If we can't find better ways to work together, we're heading towards an AI future where we collectively just do not even know what these models are, because if the curtain is never lifted, then everything that we can actually see is just a toy." I'll go ahead and link his entire post in the show notes because it's really worth a read. The deeper point here is that with this initiative, Prime Intellect is trying to change the default expectations in the AI space to one where open environments, open source, is more than just a side project or a curiosity, but instead becomes central to the development of AGI, and in particular, open source AGI. It seems clear if that's going to happen, then state-of-the-art open source tooling, like the Environments Hub, is going to be absolutely necessary to make that vision a reality. At launch, there are already several environments available. Over 30 different researchers and companies have contributed, and there's also a list of RFCs and bounties available to incentivize people to add new environments. I personally see this as a great initiative because it has the potential to level the playing field between the giant labs, and maybe more importantly, set a cultural precedent where environments, like code, like data sets, should be part of the public infrastructure of AI. The potential benefits for Olas agents are also tantalizing. With access to external training environments, agents would have new arenas to test and improve their skills, and it could also make it easier for agent developers to benchmark their Olas agents against others in the wild. If these environments are open source and composable, then the innovations that would happen in Olas could spill outward and vice versa, creating a much richer ecosystem where the best agents would rise to the top, making them more competitive and thus more useful for their owners and operators. I'll be keeping a close eye on the Environments Hub, and I look forward to seeing how people use it. I'll definitely keep you posted. Today's show is sponsored by Sigil Fund, a top-performing regulated crypto hedge fund. Since 2018, Sigil has been delivering above-average performance via smart exposure to crypto markets. Now, after 4 years of private testing, they're opening up a new strategy to qualified investors, Sigil Stable. Sigil Stable focuses on yield farming and market-neutral strategies, providing returns uncorrelated with market prices, taking away the stress of crypto volatility. All of this comes with daily and AV reporting for investors and no lockup on the investment. Visit www.sigilfund.com to learn more. All right, back to the show. All right, we'll switch gears for a moment and talk about Ethereum Improvement Proposal 8004. This is a draft proposal that's currently making its way through the Ethereum governance process, and it's really been making a splash. Posts about the proposal have been going viral on X, and there's really a lot of interest. And for context, Valery's CEO and co-founder and Olas DAO founding member David Minarsh is actually listed as one of the contributors to this proposal. Now, to help explain it in more detail, I'm happy to be able to bring you one of the authors of the proposal, Marco De Rossi. Marco De Rossi is the AI lead at Metamask, and here's our chat. So yeah, Marco, thank you for joining me. For people who aren't familiar with you, maybe we could just start with a brief introduction of who you are.
Yes, sure, and thanks for the invitation. I'm a technical founder. I've worked in the last 20 years building companies in education tech and Web3, so pretty different spaces. And now I'm super excited about the intersection between AI and Web3, and I lead AI at Metamask.
Great. So we brought you on today to talk about ERC-8004. So maybe before we get into the details of what the proposal covers, let's get the context, like why this proposal and why now?
I think it's great to start with a sanity check. We throw the word agents a lot around, but most of what people call agents are actually smarter interfaces. So if I say to a wallet, I don't know, buy 1 Ether and it executes, that's great UX. It's not an agent. So in terms of truly autonomous goal-seeking agents in production, the adoption is very tiny, probably focused in a few pockets like personal twins, trading, and within this small universe, there is a subset which is decentralized agents, which is smaller than agents in general, which includes centralized agents. So we are really talking about something very new and very emerging, which still lacks in terms of adoption. So the point is, the industry is focusing a lot of energy on platform for decentralized agents when we still don't have very strong, compelling use case on consumer-facing agents, which is like working on and building libraries before having invented books. And so we were, with the other co-authors, pretty concerned about all these different platforms, languages, and we tried to create involving relevant players that can push the standard, because at the end of the day, standards are a coordination problem, a common language that links to the experiences that are already around to solve this trust problem, because the decentralized AI agent space has on top of the general agent space the problem of deciding which agent you want to trust, to then enable builders to focus on what really matters, which is, to me, just building stuff which is relevant for consumer users.
Yeah, very cool. Before we spoke, I checked out the thread and watched how the discussion was developing, and yeah, it was really interesting to see people bring up the different like trust vectors and how the proposal could or potentially should handle those. So let's get to the proposal itself. So you're one of the co-authors. Can you give me just the elevator pitch? Like, what is ERC-8004?
Yes, this ERC is proposed by me from Metamask, the AI lead at Ethereum Foundation, Davide, and one of the engineers from Google who created the HUA and the payment standard around the Google Agent Protocol, communication protocol. What is this for? So in order to trust a decentralized agent that you wouldn't trust otherwise, it's outside the boundaries of organization, you're in the free world, you need to first discover the agent and then have ways to decide which one to pick. So what the ERC is about is agents discovery and agent trust. In terms of discovery, we suggest agents to register in an on-chain registry that points off-chain to the HUA agent card. The agent card is the concept is created by Google, is a JSON file that tells what you're willing to sell as an agent. So we haven't reinvented the wheel. We are really trying to connect the dots between standard like MCP and HUA that the industry is using a lot. And you have an entry point on chain, and then everybody can understand what you're willing to sell off downloading the off-chain files. And then you have different trust models based on what you have at stake. And to be super frank, we don't know which of the three will work. We have leveraged and put in a framework the best practice that the industry is building. Number one, reputation, based on past client feedback. So I pick the agent which received the best review from his previous clients, that are agents as well. And we just provide a lightweight system to link reputation data. We don't force how you aggregate data. That's not our job. My personal bet is that we will have an entire industry aggregating data to decide which agents to trust, exactly as we have now those indices for people in finance. So this is the first one. The second one is related to stake-secured validation. So imagine that you have nodes that are staking money and rerun the inference, so they redo the job that the agent is doing to check if what you have done has been done correctly. This approach is largely inspired by the vision that EigenLayer, which is of course the most popular project in terms of programmable trust and secure validation, is proposing. But it's not just EigenLayer compatible. It's like everything in this standard is very unopinionated and decoupled from specific companies or solutions. The third and last system to validate the work of agent is based on hardware security mechanism, and specifically to TEEs, Trusted Execution Environments, which is a very nerdy, complex term, but is actually something that we all have in our pockets, even in our iPhones. So it's a secure chip that basically sign the fact that those inputs gave those outputs. So they don't prove the correctness of a computation technically, but as far as you trust the Intel, the Nvidias of this world, you can basically trust what's happening without trusting the owner of the agent, which is what we care about. We provide these three approaches, and then it will be on the builder and the users to decide which one will become more popular.
And what's the on-chain, off-chain split here? Like what happens where?
Sure. We use blockchains just when it's strictly needed for obvious reasons. So blockchains are great to have to be logically centralized, logically, of course, architecturally decentralized entry points, like give me all agents, give me all the reviews that somebody has given to somebody, to avoid that if you receive a bad feedback, you hide it. So basically, overall, we're talking about interactive protocols, which means protocols with different steps. And we put on chain just the steps that somebody can have the incentives to hide, or somebody else can have the incentive to search with a logically centralized entry points. All the rest is delegated to off-chain storage, which is offered by the same players that join the protocol, which are the agent server, the agent that does the job, the agent client, the agent that buys the job, the task, whatever, and then the agent validator that is active only in the stake secured or T case to validate it. So they store on their own server the data.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful to see where different things happen. What's the reception been like so far?
The reception has been unexpected. We have like more than 3,000 tweets, which reached 1 million people. And I think the reason is that we are all super excited about AI. As Web3 enthusiasts, we have always been excited about the fact of having Web3 running the race of AI, but it wasn't clearly exactly actionable the how. And so part of the community is reading this as I read very often that ERC-721 is the interface for AI of Ethereum. And so this is the why. There was a strong need, I think. And more than 70 projects now reached out or expressed interest to build on it. And so the interest is there, the momentum is there, but now at the end of the day, we move to a new page, which is, of course, finalizing the standard, because in the Ethereum culture, the ERC is just the first draft, but also, and more important to me, making sure that people actually build on the standard, which is what will happen in the next few months.
Right. Yeah, and it sounds like if you're getting organizational, institutional interest at this early draft stage, then it seems likely to me that if you go through this process and refine and work out the different kinks and externalities, it sounds like that goal could definitely be very achievable. I had a question about other approaches. So there are other ways to represent agents on chain. So how would this standard, assuming that it passes in some similar format to the one that it's in now, how might that affect or allow other organizations to adopt or interact with it? What do you think about that?
If we think about what's the, let's say, competition to this standard, even if, again, it's something super open that anybody can extend and build on, it's not opinionated on anything. One approach is just having a centralized approach and not using any of that and just asking the user to trust your brand, which is, I think, just on average what will happen very often outside of Web3. Another approach that I'd like to mention is building your own L1 for agents and AIs. And there are for sure 3-4 projects thinking about this. And I'm a bit skeptical because I think that L1 are great to provide security. We've worked a lot on Ethereum to provide the best security around composability, interop. But that's another approach that it's worth mentioning. So there are people that think that inference is so specific that you need to try to bring this on chain, which is challenging because blockchain are state machines, inefficient to do that. But that's another approach.
So what's next for the proposal process? Like for people who aren't familiar with how a proposal goes from a draft into implementation, like what would come next? And if you had to guess on a timetable, like what might we be looking at?
Sure. We would like by the end of the year, ideally soon, maybe a Dev Connect, so end of November, having the final version of a standard, and more important, on the same day, like many projects that I've committed to build, and actually I've built already and will ship solution that use the standard. Something nice we're seeing chatting with projects is that very frequently they say, okay, I don't need to redo stuff. It's just a more structured and the framework to express what I'm already doing. So I just need to emit some events, to do some calls. So it should be straightforward. And so that's the goal. So 2 to 3 months. Actionable. Anybody is interested, please reach out to any of the authors. So reach out to me, to David, or to Jordan. We are really looking for technical feedback on how to change the standard. And again, more important, projects that are willing to join the working group and build on it from tomorrow. And something I forgot to say is that without any push or request, in the first week, 3 groups created their own reference implementation of a standard. And that's, I think, possible only in the Ethereum community, that you launch something and people autonomously implement it in a few days. So we're really excited of having this plurality of voices already at day 0.
Yeah. Well, you heard it, people. This is a DAO, so get involved.
Yes, let's just think about consumer-facing stuff that our friends could use.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll be keeping a close eye on the proposal process, and I look forward to seeing what happens.
Thank you again.
Okay, cool. So that was Marco De Rossi, one of the co-authors on the proposal. I think this is a very promising proposal, and echoing the theme of last week's episode, shows how seriously the Ethereum community is taking AI. If it gains traction, it could do what ERC-721 did for NFTs, basically creating a common language that then the whole ecosystem can grow and build with. To bridge it back to Olas, a lot of what this proposal is talking about is already happening in the Olas ecosystem. In a sense, you can see Olas as a working proof of the world that ERC-8004 proposes. And if this standard is adopted, it could mean that those ideas could scale beyond just one ecosystem, helping Olas agents and agent economies to serve new and more diverse use cases. Worth underlining this point, the registry pattern described in ERC 8004 echoes the existing structure of Olas. In the 2021 white paper, which I'll link in the show notes, you'll find registries for AI agents, which we called services at the time, and the underlying code that makes them up. Notably, these registries aren't theoretical, they're live, and to date you'll find more than 2,500 AI agents deployed across 9 blockchains. You can check that out at marketplace.olas.network. For Olas, ERC 8004 is exciting, and another example of the build first, standardize later approach outlined by David Menarche, founding member of Olas, in an X post commenting on episode 19 of the show, where we covered Base's X402. So to close this one out, today we looked at 2 pillars that could define the future of the agentic AI economy: open source environments where we can train an open source AGI, and ERC 8004 offering a new path to discovery and standardization for AI agents. Olas fits naturally into both of these developments. As a way to own, monetize, and build open source AI agents, these stories make it clear that agentic AI is more than just an interesting demo or a novel thought experiment. It's a real, valuable pathway for democratizing access to the tremendous amount of value that AI stands to generate. Okay, that's all I have for you today, but before we go, I'd like to remind you that Agents Unleashed isn't just a podcast, it's also the premier event series for people interested in agentic AI. Events have been held all over the world, and the next one has just just been announced. It'll be held October 1st in Singapore. It is free to attend, but you'll need to grab an RSVP, and I'd recommend that you do that soon because the previous event in Singapore was standing room only. You can find a link to that in the description box on YouTube or the show notes wherever you get the podcast. I'd also like to ask you to help me to grow the show. You can do that with a comment or reply, a review, or a rating wherever you get the show, and you can also take our listener survey. For the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be collecting your opinions on the show, and one lucky respondent will win 500 Olas tokens, subject to some terms and conditions. You can find the link to take the survey in the description box of this video on YouTube or the show notes wherever you get the show. All right, this has been the Agents Unleashed podcast. I want to thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.